So behind me you've got a Vauxhall Saloon, and you may think, what's so special about that? But look a bit closer at the finer details, and you'll notice the Benson bonnet, the wider wheel arches, and the Lotus badges. The Lotus badges, why are they there? Well, what Vauxhall did, they took the car to Lotus and said, can you make it better? Lotus said yes. And what Lotus did was to increase their engine capacity from 3 litres to 3.6 litres, meaning that this little sort of, well, this rather large sort of saloon is able to produce 377 horsepower. 377 horsepower. Wow. 0 to 60 comes in about 5.1 seconds. It will get to a top speed of 176 miles per hour. Blimey. But enough talking, let's get driving. So you join me in the Lotus Carlton, and the first thing I can tell you is that the clutch is very, very heavy indeed. The steering wheel is pretty much on my legs, so the driving position is interesting. I think that's the best way of putting it. Everything in here just feels heavy and mechanical, and it does feel pretty good. It feels manly, which is good. Now this is a rare car, so I've got to be quite careful with it. 950 of these were made in total, 320 of which came to the UK as the Vauxhall Lotus Carlton, and 630 of which were sold in other markets as the Opel Omega. Up to you how you want to pronounce it. But either way, not many of these were built. As mentioned, it has a 3.6 litre engine, 377 horsepower. I've just realised earlier I said 0 to 60 was 5.1. It's actually 5.4 seconds. So not much in it. It's still properly fast, but I just wanted to give you the correct information. And the top speed is 176 miles per hour, and all that power is being fed to the rear wheels. Now inside, it looks pretty much like any other sort of old Vauxhall saloon. Yeah, it's all pretty standard. If anything that really gives you an indication this is something a little bit special, because on the glove box it's got a little plaque telling you which model number this is. And I've stalled. Yeah, this isn't the easiest car to drive, so I'm not surprised I stalled it. In fairness, that is the first time I've stalled it, and I've been driving this for about 5 minutes now, so not too bad. Right, I'm in third. Was that fifth? Trying to get the gears right. Oh no, that's oh no, that was third. That was third, and that was brisk. So like the Astra VXR Nürburgring, I've only got this for a certain amount of time, so it's not going to be a comprehensive review. But again, it's just going to give you a little taste of what this car can do and my initial impressions of it as well. And so far, absolutely loving it. So yeah, so this has of course been tuned and developed by Lotus. So what Lotus did was they fitted a new intercooler. They obviously made the engine bigger, made tweaks to the suspension, pretty much overhauled the whole car, which gave us this, of course, the Lotus Carlton. And yeah, I feel very privileged and lucky to be driving a car this rare. So the standard car had a 3 litre engine, and when Vauxhall took it to Lotus, not only did Lotus increase it to 3.6 litres, but for good measure they added not 1 turbo but 2 turbochargers onto this car, which is why it's so rapid. It just goes about absolute clappers, as I shall demonstrate. Oh man, that's fast. That's fast. After all that, I've just realised there's a lever here where I can actually adjust the steering wheel. So I've been driving with the steering wheel on my lap for no reason. Another odd thing about the seating position of the Lotus Carlton is that the pedals are a little bit offset, so they're kind of more towards that way. So I'm sort of sat here at a bit of an angle. Not a huge complaint, just more of an observation. So as I mentioned earlier, these are rare cars. You won't find too many on the used market. I had a look on Auto Trader yesterday and I found 3, 2 of which were around the 20 grand mark, although the mileage was reasonably high, not high for the age, but high in general. It's 100,000 miles. And there's another one on there that was on there for 100 grand. I don't think that's the real price. I think that's, you know, I think that it was put on there so you can inquire. I think it's a price and application sort of job. But yeah, you won't find too many examples on the used market. Steering's got a nice weight to it, even though it is just a roundabout. Changing gear every time's like a workout. It really is. I'm gonna have a massive left anchor after today, and a massive left calf as well. Right, back onto the motorway. Let's drop it into seconds, give it some beans. Whoa. Wow, that really pinned you back in the seat with the acceleration. As mentioned earlier, this will get to 0 to 60 in 5.4 seconds. And bearing in mind this was made in the early 90s, that's still impressive by today's standards. And in fact, when this car was produced, this was the fastest 4-door saloon in mass production. Really pulls and pulls. It's got 419 foot-pounds of torque, so yes, this is pretty powerful. Dropped into 3rd, into 4th. Gear changes are quite nice, although they are quite gearbox is quite heavy. Again, that sort of adds to the experience. Into 5th. I think I'm going to give my left foot a rest for a few moments. Yeah, I know I keep saying it, but the clutch is incredibly heavy, really, really heavy. One of the heaviest clutches I think I've ever used. Not only is this fast, but it's actually quite comfortable as well. Driving it on the motorway, it's pretty comfortable. These leather seats are very nice indeed. Not too bad, not too bad. Steering has got a nice weight to it, which is what you really want in a car like this. It does feel good, it does feel good. Let's get it in a bend, see what it's like. Quite planted. Right, see what this can do. Quite a bit of body roll into 2nd. Now we have national speed limit. Right, national speed limit, here we go. Jesus almighty, that's fast. In an old Vauxhall saloon. Right, let's drop it down into 5th. Hard on my brakes. Got a corner coming up. Oh, strafe. Okay. Right, so just stopping off for lunch. So it's kind of a halfway point in the Lotus Carlton drive. Going to stock up on some food, stock up on some drink, and then we'll be back on the road in the Lotus Carlton and have a bit more driving. Right, so after a spot for lunch and getting lost and going to the wrong pub, I'm back in the Carlton, which is good news. Right, and I'm heading back to Vauxhall's Heritage Centre, where I'm going to have to sadly give the keys back for this car and jump into something else. What that something else will be, I'm not too sure. I would quite like to drive a Maloo, but I need to drive something a bit every day as well to cover the full spectrum. But yeah, my thoughts on this car so far very, very impressed, and it just absolutely pulls like you wouldn't believe. Let me drop it into second. This will be a bit hairy. Just really, really rapid. The twin turbos doing their job well, and 377 horsepower at my disposal. Yes, it's good fun. Makes this kind of weird whirring noise at low speeds. It's quite unusual. And the engine isn't quite as loud as you'd hope it to be. It's not to say the engine's quiet, but after driving the VXR Nürburgring, it's howled at you. It feels a little bit more muted, even though it's a bigger engine. I'm trying desperately not to stall. But in terms of drivability, other than a heavy clutch, it's actually quite easy to drive. I can see out quite well, even with that rather large spoiler on the back. It's comfortable. The driving position is a little bit odd. As I mentioned, the pedals are sort of offset to the right a little bit. But yeah, not too bad. Not too bad at all. These seats are comfortable. And it rides quite well. So Lotus has done a very, very good job with this car. But at the time, it didn't seem to be enough, because the Lotus Carlton actually stopped production sooner than it was meant to. The initial target was for 1,100 models. Obviously, some would be Carltons, and some would be Opel Omegas, however you want to pronounce it. But in the end, a total of 950 models were made, so they were 150 short of their target. And at the time, for whatever reason, this just didn't seem to sell too well. Which, looking back, you think that's mental, because at the time it was the fastest four-door saloon in the world. It's like, what more could you want? Is it perhaps because it didn't have a BMW badge on it, or a Mercedes badge, or an Audi badge? That could well be the solution, but that could well be the reason. Another crappy gear change there. But yeah, only 320 of these came to the UK, and I don't know how many of them are left, if I'm honest, but I don't imagine it's that many, which is a shame really, because these are cracking cars, and I've never seen any in the flesh or on the road. So this is not only was today the first time I saw one, but it's the first time I've driven one as well, and probably the last time I drive one, so I really want to make the most of this. Now, on camera, you may find that this car looks black, but it's actually imperial green. All the models were finished in that imperial green colour, but it often looks black, and I think it should be black. I think black would have looked better, but when you get up to it close and see it in the flesh, you'll realise that it's actually a really, really dark green. In fact, it's kind of almost a similar sort of green to that Astra that's in front of me. This is a bit darker though, but yeah, just a wonderful, wonderful car. And I'm so grateful to have an opportunity to drive this, because this car is absolutely legendary, and for good reason. And yeah, I've really, really enjoyed it. I don't want to give the keys back, but it is a short drive. As I mentioned earlier, this is not a comprehensive review, because I've only got I've only been allocated kind of 40 minutes with the car, but I've probably had a little bit longer than that, because I got lost on the way to the lunch stop. That was accidental, that wasn't on purpose. But yeah, all national speed limit. Let's drop it down into fourth to feel some of that power, into fifth, into sixth, and then slow down a little bit. There we go. So there we have it, a driver with a motoring icon, the Vauxhall Lotus Carlton. Only 320 of these came to the UK, and I keep banging on about it, but it just shows you how rare this car is. And I had the chance to drive one of these cars, and yeah, it's a drive I won't forget for some time. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'm going to see what else I can drive on this Vauxhall test day. So yeah, let's see what else I can get my hands on.